Hello creative minds, welcome back again to Style by Marvellgreg, and on today's project I'll be showing you how to make this beautiful boo dress just like you see here in this video. So this dress, you can go ahead and use any kind of color of fabric of your choice, and it's really going to come out well if you follow the steps that I'm going to be showing you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're yet to do so. Turn on your notification so you'll be notified anytime I post sewing tutorial. Let's get right into today's project, guys. So I'm going to be making use of this matching fabric. So I have about 2 yards of Mikado here and about 6 yards of African print. So you can go ahead and use any matching fabric of your choice. So I'm just going to open up my Mikado first, that's my plain fabric, and I'm going to be folding it into 2 first. Then I'll go ahead and fold it again into 4 just like I'm doing, and I'll go ahead and iron it in place so as to give that perfect lines before we begin inputting our measurement. So if you want your plain fabric to be longer than your Ankara, you can go ahead and use up to like 2.5 inches or even more for your Mikado, but for mine I had about 2 inches here. So what I have here is about 34 inches for the length of the plain fabric, and the wideness I have here is about 30 inches on fold, which I'll be taking out 2 inches by the side later on. So for our neck depth, I'm going to be doing 3.5 inches. So I'll mark 3.5 inches like so. Then for the back depth, I'll be doing 1.5 inches. So this is for the back neckline. Then for the front, I'll be marking about 8 inches. I'll be marking about 7.5 inches. Then I'll go ahead and curve it all the way for the front neckline. Then I'll go down again by about 1 inches just to give it that kind of curvy look design, just like I did here. Then after doing this, I'll just go ahead and mark out 1.5 inches for our shoulder slope. I'll do 1.5 inches and I'll go up again by half inches, which is going to serve as a joining allowance for the shoulder. So I'll connect the shoulder slope all the way to my neckline. So after doing this, the first step now is to go ahead and cut for our back piece, cutting our back neckline first. Then we'll go ahead and cut for our shoulder slope, just like I'm doing here. So after cutting this out, I'll just take out one piece for the back. Remember, the back is not cut into 2, the back is cut on fold. So I'll go ahead and now cut out for my front neckline, and after cutting for my front neckline, I'll go ahead and open up my fabric into 2 pieces. So I'll go ahead and slash it open at the center front, just like I'm doing here, all the way to the down parts. So after doing this is what we have. So the next step now is to go ahead and join the shoulders of both the front and the back piece together. So before I join it together, like I said, what I have here on fold is about 30 inches. I'm going to be cutting out about 2 inches out later on before folding. So I'm going to be joining my shoulders now together. I'll place my center front like so, and I'll go ahead and introduce my back piece, and I'll go ahead and pin down the shoulder. We're going to be joining the shoulder all the way to the other side. So I'll pin down just like I'm doing here, all the way to the other side of this fabric. And after pinning, I'll go ahead and join both sides of my shoulder. Then we'll move on to the next step. So after joining my shoulders, this is what we have. So the next step now is to go ahead and mark all the way from the neckline all the way down. This is to enable us to be able to cut out our Ankara fabric that we're going to be using to design the front of this dress. So I'll go ahead and measure what I have all the way around, just like I'm doing here. So after marking, I have about 60 inches there and another 15 inches. So I had about 75 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out on my Ankara piece, and I'm going to be cutting it in 2 places. So after cutting, this is what we have. Like I said, I cut it out in 2 places and I joined it together. And next now is to go ahead and measure how wide I want my neckline to be. So that point is where I want my neckline to stop. So I'll measure from the center of my dress all the way to where I want the opening of my neckline to stop, where I have marked, and I'll go ahead and impute it. So I have about 12.5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark about 13 inches. Remember that this my fabric design is on fold, is in two places. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark about 13 inches. And after marking that 13 inches, I'll go ahead and sew the center of my Ankara piece. So I'll just measure the center part and I'll go ahead and join the center all the way around. So what I have here for this Ankara piece is about 2 inches, because the design is going to be very small. It doesn't have to be so big. So I'm going to close the center and I'll go ahead and give it a very good press after stitching, and I'll come back to show you what it's looking like. So after stitching, this is what we have. So I'll go ahead and open it up. You can see now we have our neck opening. So I'll go ahead and give it a good press so everything sits properly. I'll give it a good press and I'll come back to show you the next step. So after giving it a good press, this is what we have. So I'll place the center on the center of my fabric and I'll go ahead and pin my neck design all the way around, just like I'm doing. So ensure that the wrong side is facing the wrong side of your fabric, just like I'm doing here. So you can go ahead and also include maybe a gum stay or a cloth stay on your Ankara to make it stand more. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin all the way the sides together before I go ahead and stitch. And after stitching, I'm going to double stitch again to enable my Ankara fabric to sit properly on my plain fabric. So I'll go ahead and join all the way. So after joining, this is what we look like. I already top stitch on it as well, just to make it sit properly, and I've gone ahead to give it a very good press. So the next step now is to go ahead and mark what I have from one point to the other. I've already taken out my 2 inches off camera. So what I have left, I have about 55 inches, and that is what I'm going to be cutting for the wideness of my African print. Then for the down part, I'm going to measure about 8 inches. So this 8 inches I'm marking is where my design, my African print, is going to be placed. That's where it's going to start from. So now I'm going to measure what I have from my shoulder all the way to that 8 inches that I mark. So from my shoulder all the way to that 8 inch I marked is about, I had about 24 inches, 25 inches or thereabout. At the total length of my bubu is about 60 inches. So I'm going to cut out 60 inches minus 25 inches for the length of my African print. I hope you understand what I've just said. So I marked from my shoulder to that 8 inches. So my total length of my Ankara is 60 inches, and that is what I marked. 60 inches minus 24 inches is the length I cut out for my African print. So I'm just going to give a slanted line all the way to be able to give that zigzag kind of design for for the design for the Ankara. So this line is just going to serve as a guide as I'm imputing my zigzag kind of design. So I'm just going to be where I'm going to start the design from, just like I'm doing here. So just go ahead and just curve it just like I'm curving it. There's nothing really special, just go ahead to ensure that it's slanted in a way. Just go ahead and do this all the way to the other side. So I'm just going to keep curving all the way, and that slanted line is like a guide for where I begin all my slants from, because the Bubu has kind of a slanted look for the Ankara, so that's why I included a slanted line as a guide. So after doing this, I'll go ahead and cut out. So I'll just go ahead and cut out just like I'm doing, following what I have done so far. I remember I'm doing this for both front and back. So what I've done here, this is for the front part. I'm going to do another for the back as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out just like I'm doing here in this video, and we're going to place it on our plain fabric like so. So from that 8 inches I mark is where we're going to place our African print form, just like so. And I'm going to use an hemi gum to put it in place. So I'll use an hemi gum to give it a good press and put everything in place so it stays in place before I introduce my bias tape to close up the rough edges. So I'll just go ahead and pin this down so it sits in place. Then after doing that, I'll go ahead and introduce my hemming gum. So the other side I also marked 8 inches, so the other side is also going to be 8 inches is where it's going to stop as well. So like I said, I'm going to use my hemming gum to put everything in place, and after ironing I'll come back to show you the next step. So this is what we have by the time I was done. You can see how it's looking at the back. So next now I'm going to introduce my bias tape. So the bias tape this is what I have. So I'm going to be using it to close the rough edges of my African print like so. So I'll just fold it like so, and I'll go ahead and be stitching it all the way following the zigzag shape that I've marked. So this part is very critical, so ensure that you do not rush this part, take it slowly, and I'll do that for, and I'll come back, and this is what it looks like by the time I was done. You can see how beautiful it's looking. So I'll go ahead and do this again for the back, and I'll come back to show you the next step. So after doing this for both front and back, this is what it looks. So the next step now is to go ahead and introduce our rope at the back. So that's our belt, inner belt. So from my shoulder I marked my waistline just like so, and from my center of my fabric I went out by 6 inches. So I marked 6 inches like so, just like I've done here. I'll mark 6 inches, and I'll also mark another 6 inches. So this 6 inches is where I'm going to introduce my rope. So for my rope I had about 2 inches. For the length I think I had about 20 something inches. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch on the front part only, so I'll pin it down. I'm also going to be doing this for the back piece as well. So when you're stitching on your fabric, ensure that you measure to be sure that you have your belt in place. So I'm going to be doing this for the back as well, because I want my back to also look snatched. Then for the wideness of my sleeve, I'm doing 14 inches. So 14 inches is how wide I want my sleeve area to be. But before then, I'm going to go ahead and fold this fabric all the way from the down to the other side before closing up for my sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead. So this part is optional. So I'm also going to be marking where I've already used my pins to hold, and I'll mark again my waistline for the back, and I'll go ahead and also input a belt. So this part is optional, you can do without it. So I'm going to go ahead and also top stitch on the back with my belt. So this is what it looks like by the time I was done. So I've gone ahead to close the sides of my bubu all the way around. So this is what it's looking like on the inside. I've gone ahead to close everything, and I'm going to now measure for my sleeve. So like I said, I'm doing 14 inches for the wideness of my sleeve, and I'll mark that 14 inches. Then I'll go ahead and close off the sides that I'll close it up all the way, the sides all the way to the down part, from this point all the way to the down part. But before I close it, I'm definitely going to be giving this a very good press before doing that. So this is what it looks like by the time I was done. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll be trying this out. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it to your friends or family or anyone around you that will be interested in a DIY like this. So this is what the back looks like as well. You can see how snatch is looking. Like I said, you can go ahead and do without the back. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll definitely be seeing you in my next tutorial. Bye.